Hi there, Leigh Farnell here, leading your best life. Thanks for listening. Hey, this is a podcast we did a year or two ago with a mate of mine, Damian Green, a fascinating story about management, leadership, personal health, and Manuka honey and bees, and how a negative in life has ended up being an incredible positive. You're going to love this. There's so much to learn, including how Richmond Football Club won 3 premierships. There's so much to have in here. Please listen to it and see what you think. Take some notes while you're at it. Here we go. Hi there and welcome everybody. Today I'm with an old client and friend, Damian Green. How are you, Damian?
Going well, thanks, Leigh.
Mate, you're up the country and we're going to hear a lot about your career and journey. There's so many great stories that we were speaking literally on the telephone yesterday. I said, Damian, we have to record this. So, Damian, as I said, the purpose of Everyday Empowerment Institute is to empower people to realise their full life, career, business potential. But we know if you empower the inner world, you transform the outer world. We want to turn ordinary lives into extraordinary lives by giving people clarity today to help them grow tomorrow, to empower their future. So, Damian, thanks so much for agreeing to be on this podcast. Mate, tell us a bit about your background, the Damian Green story.
Okay, yeah, it's always good to hear from you, Leigh, and thanks for this opportunity.
Pleasure.
I've had been involved with probably had 4 to 5 different careers as such throughout my life, my working life, and they being printing. I started out with snap printing, which is all over the world these days, but it actually started in Perth. And when they only had 3 shops in Perth and 3 in Sydney.
Wow, so how many shops have they got now? It's a massive organisation now.
I think it's somewhere up around 1,500 around the world.
Whoa.
I was blessed to have met and be coached, mentored by the founder of Snap, a fellow called Paddy Thompson, a brilliant man. And he gave me the opportunity. I did work in Sydney and then at Snaps, and then came back to Perth, did more study, and then I went and opened the very first instant print or Snap print centre in Victoria in Melbourne. And then as I got to a certain goal through his coaching, I had to employ people, manage people, pay wages, do all the normal business things, but I was taught that by him firsthand. And after 2 years, I had 5 shops going and about 30 staff when I was 19 at that stage.
Whoa.
He saw ability in me and backed me, and I'm forever grateful for that. Following that, I started my own printing and graphics design and stationery business in Perth, ran that for about 8 years, and we produced about 70% of all the annual reports and prospectuses in Western Australia throughout the heady days of the 80s of new floats, etc. Then after that printing career, if you like, I started in radio with Mix 94.5 and spent a total of 15 years there, and Mix 94.5 and 92.9, it's the same company, and had various roles and mainly in sales, but then I always enjoyed the creative side of presentations, so I designed my own job whereby if any of our reps had, I think 16 reps at the time on the 2 stations. If anyone had a client who wished to spend, was in the market to spend $50,000 plus, I'd come up with a presentation idea, which was quite creative. So I worked in my own little bubble, which I absolutely loved, and no one knew what I did, which was just perfect. And we wrote some amazing money for the Austereo network at the time. Then left there and joined the community newspaper group, where you and I worked together. The events industry was next, Worked in the events industry for about 8 years and ran a large international events company. Had an office in Subiaco and another in Melbourne. And we produced, with just 16 people total, we actually produced something like 280 shows per year. So every Saturday night, always had about between 5 and 8 shows on somewhere.
What a career, mate! Yeah, what a career. I mean, as you know, you and I work together both in the events business and also in the
community newspaper.
Community newspaper. But no, keep going, because this story is a fantastic story, mate. I know you're on a roll, so keep sharing, because talk about track record, and we'll come back and drill down on some of those. So, the events industry, community, keep going.
Yeah, so because I joined newspapers after working in radio for so long, it actually felt like I was going back into time. And there was always, they hated my philosophy on life is always, ask what if we can do this, what if, whereas no, we've always done it this way. That's what I got constantly in the newspaper game. So I only worked there for 2 years, but we had some sensational results and created new markets that they just didn't know they had. But they were glaringly obvious.
Let's just drill down on that for just a second, because we talk about different levels of thinking and different thinking when we're talking about the inner world creating and shaping the outer world. And, of course, straight away you've had a culture clash, and the different thinking between radio and the culture of radio and the allowance for creativity in radio versus newspapers, which often, in West Australia, they were pretty much monopolies, weren't they? Because you had the West Australian and community newspapers dominating their patch with little or no competition. And so because there wasn't competition, they were able to think like a monopoly. And that's what you hear in monopolies is we've never done it that way. We don't need to do it that way. So tell me a bit about your experience of the different thinking and how you did or didn't make progress with that.
Yeah, okay. Well, with the newspaper group, the community newspaper group is part of a larger group. So there was 17 weekly papers in Perth of community newspapers that we had to fill with advertising to make it work. And I was also responsible for the same in other states. So I was for a smaller percentage of the paper fill content, if you like, of advertising in 111 other weekly newspapers around Australia. So it was massive, a lot of pressure in that. But the total sales force that were involved were all about just selling space.
Yeah.
And I said, no, we've got to change that culture. And it was like, go to a client and do you want to put an ad in the newspaper? That was basically how the process worked. I said, no, we've got to develop relationships and so forth with people. I used to have a whip, a work in progress meeting with every rep every week.
Yep.
And sure, they all had budgets, financial budgets that we had to achieve, but I never mentioned money in the whips. It was all about what budget of face-to-face calls, phone calls and emails have you done that week, Right. And with the emphasis on face-to-face, get in front of clients and spend time with people.
Yeah.
Because our competitors don't. They just ring and say, do you want to buy an ad? So that was a real culture shift, and that's where you played a big role in that, Leigh, in training the actual staff that I had in my agency side, advertising agency team.
Yep.
And not only did we really knock the top off the records, the sales records as such, but we also, between us, I believe we changed for the better a lot of lives of those fairly young crew, if you like. They were usually in their late 20s, yeah.
Let's just drill down that, because one of the programs that we have is, there's two programs that we used there at Community Newspapers, the R Factor program, which talks about, as you say, relationships, frequency times quality of contact, and bringing that language and that thinking into that team, but also then the colour zone, the 4 steps to the sale approach, which we used in those days. And we introduced the colours so that people literally followed a process to have a quality conversation with the prospect to discover their needs and build the relationship using the R Factor and all of the science that we used. Let's just talk about that for a second, because the results Damien, just restate the results for the listeners to what happened there when, and again, this is where I've often said, it's not just my tools and the systems and the information, but when we work in partnership with a willing manager, a national manager who can drive and coach and mentor internally, which was what you did. You took the information, we worked together on it. And mate, what were the results there that you said? You reminded me yesterday what happened there. Tell me what those results were.
I'm pretty sure that the number was by beating the previous sales record in a year, we improved it by 82%.
Oh my goodness!
And that's millions of dollars difference in revenue.
Yeah.
And as I say, we never spoke about money during these WIP meetings. It was always about how many times have you spoken to people and been with people and broken the bread with them,
Relationship, yeah.
Yep.
Broken the bread, I like that, as you say. And I know you were very big, as not only on relationships, but literally where you could get people into functions or breaking the bread. And I remember you said to me yesterday, when you left, people said later on, the fun has left the building. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I've kept in contact with predominantly females that I had. I believe they're better salespeople than guys, even though I was one myself. But I worked with some brilliant women. And, building those relationships with people was what it was all about. And then the money will flow. And it certainly did. So
82% better than the last record. That's incredible.
Yeah, we did it in less than 2 years. I think it was 20 months or something from my start date to achieve that. So I was very proud of, not myself, but proud of the team, because obviously it was a team effort to bring home the bacon.
That's exactly what we mean by empowerment, giving people the skills, the knowledge, the motivation, making them feel safe enough to use the knowledge, and being in, we talk about ecosystem, but being in an environment where they feel that they can go and do it. You've given them the confidence. I mean, do you want to just talk to that for a second about the ecosystem that you and I, or, and I'll say primarily you, because you're there every day. I was coming in, I don't know, every couple of weeks or month or whatever it was that we were
I think it was fortnightly. Yeah.
Every fortnight. Tell us about the ecosystem and your philosophy around that kind of empowerment ecosystem.
Oh, well, by doing that, it actually gave me a lot of power. It was just a tremendous joy I got from helping people. And as I say, the benefits flow on from that. But it doesn't take a lot to change culture within a group. And it's just, we've got to be honest with people. And probably the best rule or the best system that I ever had was one on respect. And this was something that I had a presentation that I did with my whole team every time we got a new employee. So they knew from day one what the culture was about. And it was purely about respect. So there was 3 levels of the respect that we used to go through, which was, first of all, respect yourself and look after yourself, be responsible. If you've got a big presentation on the morning, don't go out on the grog the night before. Look after your body. The second was respect the colleagues and the people that you work with, and the last one was respect the brand that pays us. So the company, don't ever bag the company when you're out socially or anything, because they're the ones who just paid your rent or your mortgage, and call it when you see any of us, myself included, showing disrespect for any of those 3 things. So themselves or their colleagues or talking poorly about the brand. And I was guilty of all 3 myself from time to time. And I was called on it by people, and they had the power to believe, or the belief to know that I would respect that they've called it, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, see, that's an important part of setting culture, setting ecosystem, is what happens in the induction phase, which is, we call it setting the fruit bowl, setting the context. And you've just done that using the 3 levels of respect, but also then giving people the authority to call, because in the absence of saying that, people do their own thing. and in most cases their mum or their dad or their footy coach or others, they haven't had that conversation, but you've set the context from day one in terms of this is how we want to play the game together around here. And as you say, you've given people the permission to call you as the leader manager as well, which is, I mean, again, people go, you can imagine the young 20-year-old going, what the hell? The boss has just said that I can call him as well. Wow. That's just changed the ball game straight away. Now, let's talk about, without using the person's name, talk about coaching conversations and respect. There was one particular, at that stage, girl, I suppose, I don't know, was she 19 or 20 or 21 or something, who hadn't been meeting people enough face-to-face. And you said, did you have a coaching conversation with her? And we did have that coaching conversation. And I said, what I want to do, and I think I talked to you about it, I said, what I want to do is find out what is going on between her ears, because we use the neuroscience of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and there's a presupposition in NLP which says people always act with good intention, even if what they're doing is ridiculous or stupid or not helping them achieve their goals. So I want to find out what her reality is, the thinking that's guiding her decision-making, to go, because you said to me she's only doing 2 appointments a week and she needs to be doing at least 8 appointments a week. But they were roughly the numbers, weren't they? I don't remember.
I didn't, break their back, sort of force them. We had those rough guidelines, but and they were very, very achievable. It's just that with her and her others around her about the same age, I think they were what we called the Y gen at the time, were all by email. They produce a generic proposal and email it to 50 people. So she's done 50 calls. No, you haven't. You've done 0 calls, So there was no personalisation. And I said, well, and in the follow-up, what's happened? Well, I emailed them. Yeah. And they haven't come back to me.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we stop, Okay, this has got to stop. While email is a great tool, obviously in business, it's got its limits, and especially young people that have trouble communicating because everything's by text or that. And, I believe that in another 15 years we might have a serious problem with trying to attract salespeople with any real experience because of that. We need to train these people, old school, if you like, but that's what works. And that's what develops relationships. Good relationships equals good business,
well, it's the R factor. It's a frequency times quality of contact. And obviously an email contact, there's nowhere near the quality of a face-to-face contact. Particularly where you start to, and as we do, find points in common. And, that's the orange zone, the rapport factor, how much we've got in common, how much we actually know, like, and trust each other. Now we've got a whole other level of thinking and level of relationship going on. So we had that conversation, and I think I said to you at the time, when I asked her, because it will be a form of what we call perturbation, there might be tears. And if I do remember at the time, when I said to her, so what is your thinking? And she said, well, what would I go and talk to them about? And I said, because she said, the only time I go there is when there's a new rate card or something. What the heck? And so I said, well, just go and drop by. We call it the pop by. Just pop by and see what's going on. And so she started to do that. And, of course, she went on. And nowadays she's actually managing a whole team. So she's
in media, she is indeed.
An underperforming rep to now the whole journey. Of course, that must be 15 or how many years ago would that be now? I don't know how many.
Yeah, probably close to 15 maybe.
Yeah. So it's just a great story between that conversation and your coaching and mentoring. And in fact, I went on and she worked with me on another project where she was working with the company as the internal change agent. So it's just a beautiful story, which again comes back to the power of a mentor and a mentoring conversation where, it might just be 1 or 2 sentences with someone that can
resonate.
That resonates and changes their life coming back to you and being mentored by Paddy, give me one or two things that you recall Paddy saying to you, setting up those stores in Snap as a young person, that you recall him saying that, you go, man, that made a difference. It flipped my thinking on its head or changed me in that moment. Can you recall any of those conversations with Paddy?
Yeah, most definitely. Paddy was a front runner in franchising within Australia, and he was one of the first to do it. And Snap was one of the very first success stories of creating a franchise, which he'd modelled off American things he'd seen with Kentucky Fried and a company called Post Winston Press and others. But he was an absolute gem at it. And because I was based in Melbourne, a lot of the national contracts say for what photocopiers are we going to have in our stores, and it was two photocopiers, but all of a sudden for a photocopier company, that's an order that we'd put in of 1,000 photocopiers. We wouldn't buy one or two,
Wow.
And those sort of numbers. And there was a lot of the national contracts, their head offices were also in Melbourne. So when he did come to Melbourne, say once every quarter, I think he used to come, he'd tee up all these appointments like that, and I'd run him around to them. And he said, no, don't stay in the car. You come in with me. You don't have to say anything. I just want you to be present. Mm-hmm. And what I found by witnessing firsthand how Paddy operated on the big numbers was the respect that he had for the families of the people that worked for them was quite incredible. And he said, we could have gone with this other company, it's X amount of dollars cheaper per year, which would have saved us, $50,000 or whatever the number was, He said, however, these people have got families, and I know a lot of them. And he said, by us moving our account to this other company, we would directly affect them and their kids. And I went, wow, thinking to that level. And, lots of ethical stuff that he taught me about business, where it's not all about the dollar. Ethics is way better. You do your ethics right, and the money will flow,
Beautiful.
Money will follow.
And as you say, the word fam, I mean, you've used two words there that are super powerful. One, modelling. First of all, Paddy modelled franchises that he saw in the US, and then you really seeing firsthand where you could model not just what he might have done or said, but the thinking and the philosophy and the values that underpinned it, not the least of which there is also the power of family. I mean, what's one of the primary motivators of us all as human beings is for our families, and to respect our families and respect other people's families and have an interest in our families. Often, why do we do all this? We want to do it for our families. So that it's a universal value almost, isn't it? The power of family.
Oh, most definitely, yeah. He was just such a great man, and had commanded respect himself, from all the staff and all the franchisees that were eventually set up. Yeah. So, I was very, very, very grateful, still am today, for having worked with him,
Brilliant. Now, our model at Everyday Empowerment Institute is the relationship between the internal world, thinking, and the mindset. And really a lot of the work originally was done from Napoleon Hill with Think and Grow Rich, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. The power of thought, the discipline of thought, envisaging it, then making it happen. So I want to talk to you now, besides the fact that you envisaged, obviously Paddy envisaging Snap, going to 1,500 stores, and many other examples of that where we've done work with cash converters and others, and obviously Ray Kwok with McDonald's, envisaging and then making it happen. But you also are a passionate AFL football person, and besides, I think you were an AFL umpire, weren't you? An AFL umpire? Which I think
I was in the big league. I was
in the big league.
Oh, in the VFL and the WFL, when WFL was big.
Yeah.
I was in the bigger games like state games and that, and grand finals, I was a boundary umpire. But I was a boundary umpire back in the day when boundary umpires were men. There was only one on each side.
Yes. A of running, mate. You've been very, very fit there. And of course, I think then Grant Vernon, who went on to manage also as an umpire, you would have known him. But the point I want to get to is you are head of, what's the position of the Richmond?
I was for 8 or 9 years in Perth. I was the WA president for the WA supporter group for Richmond, and that was my agenda was to sort of grow membership, develop membership growth, and service the members that we have, and give them create experiences for them that they would never have thought they would be able to get, being so far away from Melbourne. And after that period, I think in 2014 or 15, we actually Richmond WA became the largest membership of any AFL team outside of Victoria. WA Richmond, and this was at a stage where it was 35 years since our previous premiership, our last premiership. So to be the best on top of the ladder of, we had 3,800 fully paid members in WA. So
that's fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah,
the point I wanted to make, you just used the word then, by the way, experience, which we'll come back to, which is because it's a powerful word in this next piece we're going to talk about, and of course family, there's a Richmond family, but you were there talking about the mind, whatever the mind of a person can conceive and believe it can achieve. You were there in the gymnasium at Richmond Football Club the day Brendan Gayle said, we're going to take Richmond from where we are to create this. Now, I want you to tell the story in your own words of what you remember about that.
Yep.
And what did Brendan Gayle say? Talk about whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe can achieve. What did he say, and what happened as a result of that?
Well, first of all, to be invited to attend, I was quite privileged.
Yes.
And Richmond always paid for me to go to meetings and would fly me over there, etc. Mm-hmm. So that in itself was really, really something to me, that they saw that I had ability for input into the club in a small way, if you like.
Well, you would have been somewhere around that time. You'd built up this quite epic number of away supporters in WA. So they're going, hang on, this guy's got something going for him over there.
It wasn't just supporters. That was the number of actual fully paid members, where our supporter base is far greater than that in WA.
Wow.
But
fully paid members. Sorry, you're absolutely right. So it's actually real revenue for the club coming out of WA.
Yeah, I used to make up to like $200,000 a year for the club. So that was sort of the money that I made for them, and did lots of auctions and experience stuff. And so my cousin, who's the same age as me, played for Richmond for 16 years and was the captain, and played state game 20 times for Victoria.
Was that Dale Wakeman, was it? Was that the one?
Yeah, the Flea,
right.
yeah. So I actually umpired Richmond games, and I've also umpired WA versus Victoria because Dale and my mothers were sisters, so my mother was Victorian, but she married a West Australian. That's how come I'm a West Aussie and he's a big.
Okay. Let's come back to the gym. You're in the gym.
Sorry.
What happened?
Yeah. Well, the club was in all sorts of turmoil, and we were sacking coaches every other week, and the financial history of the club was super poor. In just 3 or 4 years prior to that, it looked like the club was definitely going to fold financially. And Dale actually wrote a book called Saving Our Skins, and 100% of the money income went to the club. That was what he was like.
Wow.
So, but Brendan set out this goal for us. He called it 0375. It was clear as day. I remember that. And at the time, we had 46,000 members, right, total in Australia, financial members. And we had enormous debt. I can't remember the number, but it was in the tens of millions type thing. And it had been so long since premiership, of course, over 30 years, 33 or 4 years or something. Yeah. And so this 0375 was, he said that within the next 10 years, we will have zero debt. We will have won 3 premierships, and we'll have a membership of 75,000. So the zero debt is realised into like 40 or 50 million in the bank, and in the black every year. And the 3 premierships is been well noted by people. And then the 75,000 target on the membership was, we've now got about 105,000. So everything came to fruition. But instead of just setting this big, hairy, audacious goal like he did for us all, he actually broke it down. He didn't just present and then put the file in a drawer and forget about it. Twice a year, we were all given a spreadsheet of what our responsibilities were and the steps that how we're going to achieve it, or the roadmap type thing on how to get there. And twice a year I had to do a report on where I was at, and so did everyone that had anything to do with the club. So it wasn't just the football side of the club; it was all the administration, everyone. And I think that's why it was achieved, is simply because of that, because it was top of mind for that whole period.
Mate,
it wasn't set and forget stuff like most people do.
Absolutely, mate. And so he's built accountability in. I mean, what happened there a second ago, I literally searched for it on Google and a video of a speech came up, but I'm looking at it right now on the Richmond football site because it's there as it's all written down. March the 2nd, 2010, Richmond players, coaches, staff, directors gathered in the club's gymnasium to hear Brendan Gayle outline the Tigers' vision. And he goes on, I won't read it all, but it's just, I read it, in fact, and I sent it to my colleagues who are running Australian water polo. I said, you could literally cross out the word Richmond Football Club and write in the words Australian water polo, and you could, there's the blueprint. Now, so let me just go. At the Richmond Football Club, we will establish and entrench a brand or culture or simply a Richmond way of doing things. That defines, I mean, I'm quite emotional, so I don't even vote for Richmond, but what it is a person articulating a vision, articulating a culture, what the mind of man can conceive and believe he can achieve. And he's gone this, from this gathering on, we will be a united club and all of us will unite behind our team. We will be relentless in the pursuit of excellence and sticking to our plan and never deviating. And in the way we apply ourselves to our goals, we'll be proud of our past and what we've achieved, and we'll be ambitious about our future and what we plan to achieve. We will be leaders in terms of our thinking and people, in terms of our relationship with our community. And it goes on, these are the benchmarks that will make Richmond a powerful and glorious place to be over the next decade. And he goes on and on. I mean, it just goes on. And he goes, I've had a gutful of representing an era of failure. Many of you are tired of failure. Many of you newcomers have never known failure. Never known success, yeah. Yes, you've never, that's right. It goes on and on. And as you say, 3 finals appearances, 0 debt, 75,000 members. And of course, as you say, they've exceeded that. But I love the fact, this is what we say, everyone, everywhere, every day is improving and implementing, and he's put in the roadmap, the spreadsheet, and the accountability. So that's why we say smart goals have got to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic with a time frame, and there's accountability in there. And as you said, so many plans end up at the bottom of a drawer, whereas he's kept it alive. And mate, you're going to roll up with a spreadsheet, and you better not roll up that spreadsheet saying you haven't achieved your goals. He's put fear, pressure. He's created a culture of accountability and achievement, which is just beautiful. Yeah. Yep.
He was a brilliant man, and obviously he was a great footballer himself for Richmond, and it's through and through. But wherever you go throughout the club, is you just see our jumper is on walls everywhere. Yeah. Our jumper, and it's just the Richmond jumper with the yellow sash and on the black. So it's embodied into everybody's absolute being, you know.
Well, you see Dusty Martin often, I mean, he controls himself beautifully, which is a whole other story. I'll come back to that. Is to be control. But when he is celebrating, the first thing he does is
just grab the jumper.
Grab the jumper.
Yep, and show the logo.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it's our jumper. And actually after that meeting, we went out for lunch with, we had 6 new players that year, 2010, two of which were Dylan Grimes and Dustin Martin. So that neither had played a game. And when I came back to Perth, my father, who was 82 years old at the time and a Fremantle supporter, I told him, I said, we've just signed the next Wayne Carey. And as quick as anything, my 82-year-old father said, why is that? Does he play with his mates' wives in the toilet?
Oh, no.
Which I thought was pretty good. But
when that's ethics, that's you know, what does that guy remind? For all the goals he kicked, he steps over a massive line in terms of ethics and values, and that's what he's remembered for. No matter what he does, he's tarred with that for the rest of his life, coming back to ethics and values. But let's just go to the Dustin Martin story because, you know, we're at Everyday Empowerment Institute, the internal world. I was listening to Damien Hardwick, and people say people don't know a lot about Dusty Martin, but his preparation and his discipline, and of course, Richmond were one of the first to have a mindfulness coach. In fact, I was watching. I think it was the Whale. Brian Roberts was saying, "Who's that woman in the background there?" She was in the ring. They go, "That's our mindfulness coach." What the hell? You Google it, mindfulness. It goes back. You can Google and go. I think it was the first premiership. Was it 2017 or thereabouts when they said, "We don't mind." It's there. It's an Age article talking about the role mindfulness played in Richmond's success. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, and all the meditation sessions we did and things like that. Yeah, no, that was across the board as well. So that was encouraged to the nth degree by Brendan. You know, everything came from Brendan Gayle, and he just encouraged us all to adopt all this different way of thinking, and then we'll see the benefits, which obviously we have. But and there's more to come, you know.
I'm looking here right now, 2nd of October 2017, mindfulness was a key factor in Richmond's grand final victory. Mindfulness and meditation helped Richmond break their AFL drought. 25th of September 2019, how mindfulness gives Richmond the edge. The mindfulness guru behind Richmond's AFL success, which again comes back to the inner world, the relationship between the inner world and the imagination and calmness and stillness and the manifestation. Of course, here's another one, playing without fear of the outcome. A psychologist tells about Richmond's success, 25th of September 2019. That's why I love alliteration, but mindfulness, modelling, meditation, mastery. The other thing, of course, Brendan Gayle says in that speech talking about modelling, he talks about modelling Geelong, which is because my good mate Brian Cook, I went to uni with, Cookie and I, we've done interviews years ago. He says, this is what he says in that speech in 2010. He says, at the end of 2002 season, a season where Geelong finished 12th, the Cats had not won a premiership for 40 seasons. At the start of 2010 season, Richmond has not won a premiership in 30 seasons. Geelong did it by applying simple processes to maximise the opportunity that other AFL clubs have. The Cats planned for their success. They brought in good people who worked together. They acted and made decisions in accordance with a strong set of values. They believed in themselves and their plan. They stuck to their plan and remained loyal to each other when the really tough questions were being asked of them. At Richmond Football Club, we will establish and entrench a brand and a culture, or simply in other words, we're going to model Geelong. And modelling, mindfulness, meditation, I mean, these things, it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful, isn't it? How do we create an ecosystem to bring the best out in people?
And you've got to actually make it top of mind on a daily basis. It's not, let's do one session on this and then we should get it and we'll go and be successful. It's not like that at all.
Yes,
it's hard work to do it.
Yes, and that's what we say. Everyone, everywhere, every day. It has to be a daily discipline.
That's it.
Which is what we build into our Everyday Empowerment Institute programs. Because having worked in this area of change for so long, as you say, so often people will do one session, or they'll do something once a month or once a year and think, oh, we've done culture change, or we've done business improvement, or we've done performance improvement. But as you say, it's how do we build it in on an everyday basis as an everyday discipline? It's the daily discipline. And as you say, it's an ever-evolving story. I mean, the way they played and dominated that grand final last year, let alone, we often talk about the love factor. I watched the Super Bowl the other day, Tom Brady winning his 7th ring, and one of the guys who was commentating has won 3 Super Bowls, and he said that is the reciprocity, that Tom Brady brought the love to that defence, and that defence wanted to give Brady the love back.
Yeah, powerful, eh?
I get so emotional about it, because it's about how we create environments and ecosystems to bring out the best. And it's not about concrete, it's actually about heart.
Yeah, we had a Tom Brady in the AFL too, Leigh.
Yes, that's right.
7 times premiership, Michael Tuck.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant.
Superstar.
Yeah.
And again, the love he had for his jumper and team. And again, fearless. Talk about mindfulness and lack of fearlessness, Michael Tuck. But, mate, I want to talk about your journey in recent times now, because you told me, I'd heard you hadn't been well, and then you told me, talk about transformation. Can you tell your recent story in transformation and now what you're doing to help others in the same situation? So tell me where you're at.
Yeah, love to.
And bringing out the best in yourself and others. Really a story of healing and transformation.
Yeah, well, when people ask me, what are you doing these days, I say I'm into trees and bees. And that's exactly what I do, and I'm extremely passionate about it. But about 5 years ago, I think it was, I was living in a 2-story apartment in the centre of Subiaco, on the doorstep of everything going on in the hectic world there. And I saw I think it was on either Landline or Four Corners, a story about the invention of the flow hive.
So, Damian, what is going on with what you're doing with the beehives? What are you doing that's different?
On the commercial side of it, I'm using the traditional beehive system, which is called the Langstroth system, and that's been used by apiarists for the last 160 years. But the thing that really got me going on all this was the actual invention of the flow hive. That's what really sparked it.
The flow hive.
Yeah, the flow hive is an invention by a father and son out of Byron Bay in New South Wales, where they actually, it was 6 years ago this month actually that they launched it. And what that does is, well, traditionally with the normal hives, to go to a beehive, you need to suit up, you need to take a smoker, which subdues the bees. And
I remember seeing all those, the smoker, and they've got nets all over them and so on, yeah?
Yeah. The smoke actually kills a pheromone that there's guard bees at the front of the hive that say there's a predator coming. So that subdue, and then they put out a pheromone to tell everyone to go and attack. So the smoke actually just subdues that. So that's what worked well for that long, as I say. But then you have to open the hive, and it's a very invasive process to even just check the health and the fill factor of your hives. So with this flow hive, what they do is they put in a synthetic or plastic cells of frame of the frame of all the with all the cells in it. So the top and bottom of each part of this plastic hexagon that each cell is broken, and so they put that in. The bees go in, they finish off the hexagon, they put their honey in as per normal, and then cap it with wax as per normal. So the thing with the flow hive is that when you look through a window on the side, so you haven't suited up, you haven't used the smoker, and you just look through, oh yeah, there's honey, there's enough honey there to extract. So all that you do is put a key in and turn it, and that actually fractures that cell, that plastic cell that was top and bottom broken.
Yeah.
And then the gravity just pulls the honey down and it comes out of tap.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's much more efficient and way less invasive.
Indeed, and they've sold just over 75,000 today around the world, but it's created a greater interest in bees, which I think is absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant.
6 years ago in WA, in the WA Apiary Society, we had about 90 members. Now we've got about 4,500.
What the heck? That's unbelievable. That's definitely exponential growth.
Yeah, it's just slightly. So, I believe this has come down to the invention of the flow hive, because it's just made it so easy for backyard people to get into beekeeping on a safe, and you can engage kids with it and that type of thing. So you can put it in a suburban situation because there's such a variety of flowers that people plant in their gardens. So there's always plenty of food for the bees.
Wow, and that's a great Australian success story, isn't it, out of Byron Bay?
Exactly, yeah. It's Nimbin really, but they where they live, but they claim that they're from Byron Bay, so it's pretty close.
Fantastic.
So I came up with a business model, which is called Bee Central, is my business. And I looked at the Manuka honey industry as a health product, and the emerging of the Manuka industry, which has probably been going for about 10 years now. And I thought, right, I researched it and went to the university and met with people, etc. And I thought, I reckon I could do this in Western Australia. So I thought, where's the best place to do it? I researched the amount of light that we have compared to New Zealand and rainfalls, soil conditions, etc. And York or the Avon Valley looked spot on. So not knowing anyone in York, I just packed up and left and moved to York just over 4 years ago.
That's a transfer. That's a pivotal. That's a big decision.
Yeah, from the middle of Subiaco to I now live on the edge of York, just on 5 acres, but and it's absolute magical, and I love every day, and most grateful for the opportunity, Wow. So so I didn't have the funds to go and buy land, which, as it's turned out, has been good. And I'll explain why. Mm-hmm. And so I thought I'll go and ask landowners if I can have a bit of their land and then do this project, and then we can share in the proceeds of the honey, That was the basic sort of model. Mm-hmm. And I did the first one, and then other people started talking, and to keep me alive in the meantime, as far as income goes, excuse me, I got a charter vehicle licence so that I could drive people to the airport from York just to make a bit of money, in the meantime. And the beauty of doing that, the great byproduct of doing that, was that I'd have farmers in the car for an hour and a half, and I'd just pick their brains, And
captured conversation.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, they were going nowhere. In fact, one of them one day that I took, on several occasions when they were going away on trips, when he got out, he said, "So have you sucked enough information out of me today?"
Wow, yeah, nice.
But I lucked out, and a lady rang me from the, what's the old people's, there's a club they have where they network together. Probus.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Our Probus, the president of the Probus for York. And she said, "I've never met you, but I've heard a bit about you, and I know you've just moved to York, and we want to hear your story. So can you come and do a presentation to us?" I said, "Yeah, love to." So once again, captive audience. Yeah. And they weren't the farmers, they were the retired farmers. So they weren't making the decisions, but they were the major influencers from a sales perspective. So that was gold. And as that really got me going. And then, I got one farm, and I said, I don't want to take over a farm like history of blue gums and sandalwood people have done before to farmers. I just want to see if this is going to work. And for that, I only want 5 acres or 2 hectares. So the first one, the deal was done, and I operate on an MOU. So this is what I promised to do. This is what you promised to do. And I've had no conflict in any way, shape or form since that. It seemed like people say it's a loose arrangement. And I said, well, it's based on trust and a working partnership,
Yes.
And so I got the first one up and running, and people were saying, we'll talk around York, what's this? And then people came up to me, a farmer, and said, "How much do you charge to do this?" And all I wanted was the land to use. So I just rattled off a figure that I thought, right, a cost. And he said, great, yeah, we'd like to have a look at that, do that. And then that became the price. Wow. So all of a sudden I was getting paid to do this. So I got 12 properties, 12 farms, where I've got about 2,000 trees on each, 1,500 to 2,000 trees, say. And but because I didn't have enough money just to buy 100 hectares or 200 hectares myself, I've lucked out by I've been exposed to 12 different soil profiles, right, and different watering methods and everything. Every property is different. Believe me, even though I'm doing the same thing, there's little idiosyncrasies with every property. So now I know exactly what to do, and I've just put in 2 commercial size plantations now. And the one that in July last year, I was out at the property when you rang me yesterday.
Yes.
I put in 75 acres, so I planted 25,000 trees on that, and they're going gangbusters. And the attrition rate is less than 0.1 of 1%.
Wow.
Because the soil is, I know exactly what to do now and how to do it, right? Wow. So I I've been, over that 5 years, I've been building a relationship which has been really beneficial both ways with the University of WA, who have a bee research team. And the doctor that runs that, she has, I think, 10 or 12 PhD students studying things about bees. So I make all my properties available for those students to use for research, and then I have input on other things. And part of one of my goals along the way is to be able to fund 2 PhD students every year, so that they don't have to get a job at Kentucky Fried or whatever.
Yeah.
And they know what my vision is, etc., and it's all in sync. So yeah, and I'm building a large bee centre in York as well, but that's another story. But
wow. Can I just take a step back, because I don't know whether you want to reveal or not, but you told me about the health benefits. I mean, I've heard about health benefit because I mentioned Manuka honey to my friend this morning, and that I go swimming with, and he went, "Oh, there's all this health benefit," but I don't know enough about it. So for the listener, what is going on with this Manuka honey, and in fact the honey that you're producing? And if you're willing to share your health story that you told me yesterday.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Because I don't know much about it at all. And your story really, like, I went, what the heck? Are you willing to share that?
Yeah, most definitely. It's Manuka is it's a tree. It's a tea tree. It's not like a big gum tree. So my trees will only grow to like 3.5 metres high. They're not, and they mature within 4 years. So you're not waiting around 20 years for a result like you are with sandalwood. The health benefits of it is the antimicrobial properties that are within the honey that is produced from the nectar of those trees, right? And with it's called Leptospermum scoparium is its botanical name, Manuka. And there's 86 species of Leptospermum in the world. Australia's got 83, WA's got about 60 of those. And but out of the 86, and New Zealand only have 2 species. Out of those 86, there's only 8 that have what we call antimicrobial properties or activity in the honey. And the things it's used for and that it's already been proven. And as I say, it's an industry that's only been going for 10 years total. So things are still getting proven. But of the things that have already been proven that as a remedy is that it fixes this indigestion and staph infections, open wounds. You put Manuka on it, instantly sterilises, of course, just like the Egyptians did. So this is not something new as a medicine. And then it heals with almost no scarring. Wow. It fixes, can eradicate acne, golden staph, indigestion, sunburn. The burns unit is using it. Wow. And it's used in gauzes, in bandages now as well, right? So effectively what it is it's putting good bacteria into your body to fight bad bacteria, whatever that bacteria is, okay? So I believe there's lots of other things. Now, my own experience was that when I first got to York, I hadn't been here that long, but I had a car crash. I broke my neck, and I fractured it. It wasn't super major, but, you know, I was out of action for a little bit, but had work. I was still watering trees and stuff with my brace on, you know.
Yeah.
Just get on with it and just go. And as a result of the rehab of that, there was a blood test. So the doctor, and given my previous heart experience, whenever I have a blood test, I get the copy sent to me because I know the scores and what the safe zones on cholesterol and everything are, where I should be. So I'm well aware of all that. And I had a blood test as part of the rehab bit, and no problem. And then I got the results, had a look, it all looks good. And then he rings me and says, "You've got to come and see me." And to cut him some slack, this doctor is from Sudan or somewhere, so English isn't his first language. He speaks very directly. But when I said to him, "What is the issue with my blood test?" And he said to me, "I think you're riddled with cancer."
What?
Yeah. Well, I said,
what a meeting that is.
Yeah, I said, F me. I said, "How's your morning been?"
Yeah.
I said, "Mate, you got the bedside manner of a cane toad." And and he, so yeah, onto specialists straight away, and urgency. You know, there was red flags going up everywhere, and I was indeed riddled with cancer. So I had a very aggressive cancer that, without any symptoms, I had stage 4 cancer. And they gave me 4 to 6 weeks to live.
What?
So I came home and thought, well, this was at the start of 2017, right? The Richmond premiership year.
Yeah.
So I can't die this year, you know. So
Dusty's playing well. Yeah.
And in fact, at that grand final, 2017 grand final, I said after the siren had gone to another Richmond person dressed in the yellow and black, that I didn't know. I just said, I can die a happy man now. And I came back and got the results from the cancer. So I thought I didn't mean it that quick. But
talk about don't wish too hard for what you want. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, indeed. I did think of that one. So I came home, I thought, why did I get cancer? You know, so I thought, it's the trees, the honey. It's because what I'm doing. So I actually imported, when you could still import Manuka from New Zealand, you can't into Western Australia anymore, because of the disease and stuff that the adulteration they do to the honeys, you know, to spread it. I ate just a heaped teaspoon every morning. That was my medicine. And every 2 weeks I got a blood test for 10 weeks, right? So doctors don't let you have that many blood tests. So I went to different doctors around, you know, the place. And but every 2 weeks I got a result. And I watched it. And after 2 weeks, the cancer went into remission. And then after another 8 weeks, the tumour had actually, because I'd had PET scans and everything, you know, MRIs and stuff. After a total of 10 weeks from starting on the honey, my tumour had reduced by 43%, which made it small enough to operate where they were able to cut it out. And they didn't quite get it all. There's a little bit left. And I had a look on the doctor's screen and I said, "Is it worth worrying about?" He said, "Yes, because it's next to a lymph node." So he said, "But we can deal with radio." So I went to Perth every day for 15 minutes on the radio machine for 8 weeks every day, and then came back and worked on my trees. You know, you weren't allowed to drive a car, but I thought, no, just keep going. Do what you do. Don't pour me, you know. I hate people that do that, you know. They look at me, how bad a life I've had or whatever.
Well, no, play the victim, which again comes back to mindset and what's going on in the internal world. So you're not playing that. You're not playing that game.
No, don't play that
story to yourself. So, Damian, tell me about this relationship between the honey and your recovery from cancer. And obviously, as you say, you're a one-off case, so it's hardly a scientific study. But in your experience, what went on?
Yeah, that's a great point you make there, Leigh, that it is a one-off case. It's an anecdotal evidence type thing at this stage, but it worked for me. So, and I've heard other situations of different skin cancers and things that people have used Manuka honey on and had success. So ideally we aim to do a clinical trial, but that'll be conducted through the university, and then we can actually get some real proof. But I'd emphasise at this stage that it is purely anecdotal. So,
and what's your state of health now? What's your kind of clarity or freedom from cancer at this point in time?
Yeah, the honey that actually reduced the tumour by 43% had then made it small enough, the tumour was small enough for them to operate to cut it out, which they did. However, they left a tiny little bit there, and the oncologist said that, we'll be able to treat that with radiation, which they did. And I did 8 weeks of driving to Perth every day for 15 minutes on the machine at Charlie Gardner's, I just saw that as that's just the process. It's not an issue, I never worried about it.
Brilliant.
I just went through the process.
So you're either cancer-free or at least zero. They call it remission, I think, don't they? Is that what happens?
No, completely free.
Oh, really?
Yeah, zero, yeah.
Fantastic.
So I just recently had my second 12-month check, and it's still absolutely zero. So, very, very pleased, and once again grateful for the work of the medical people at Charlie Gardner's, which is was brilliant. Yep.
So really, as you say, it's a study of one, but there are other people you know of. But until there's a proper study, and in a lot of cases, people talk about working in parallel. Obviously, as you say, which is your case as well, medicine as it is, but the honey working in parallel to support that process. I don't know what they call that when something happens when you're working. It's not like one or the other. It's actually the synergy.
A combo.
Combination.
Sure. Yeah. So very happy with the result, of course. Yeah.
The fact that you're talking to me is a good start. Exactly.
Yeah. And this wasn't pre-recorded 3 years ago. So
No, right. What was the story, by the way, what was the story you were telling yourself, or even meditation, but what was the story you were telling yourself over that period that may or may not have impacted the healing process?
I created a big, hairy, audacious goal out of that while going through that radiation process and stuff. And that was that I'm going to, my goal is to prove that my honey can cure cancer. Wow. Now, I do a lot of talks about these to different industry groups and whatever that ring me, and whoever asks me, I'll go and do it, schools, whatever. Mm-hmm. And you never know who's within an audience, as you well know, from a sales point of view. Yeah. And I've picked up, some good business as such from that. But if there's people over the age of 50 in the room, I know that I'm going, after my speech, I'm going to get people come up to me and tell me a cancer story. And I've had numerous, but one common one that I get is, when you see people have skin cancer on their hands and those spots and they haven't burnt off, and they have those marks, you put the honey on it, and within 2 or 3 weeks, the marks have cleared completely on your skin.
So, Damian, what is this? What's the active ingredient in the honey? How does it all work?
Well, it's basically the magic that the bees do from collecting the nectar to making the honey. This is where the antimicrobial properties are developed, and it's called NPA, or non-peroxide activity, is the actual chemical term, if you like, that actually makes the difference, and that's what creates the good bacteria that eats bad bacteria when you ingest it or put it on your skin. Yeah.
Non-peroxide activity. Wow. Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking right now. This activity became known as non-peroxide antibacterial activity, NPA. Dr. Molan went on to research this activity over many years and found it was very stable in Manuka honey and could withstand both heat and light exposure and still remain highly active and effective. So there's a whole area of study that's gone on there around non-peroxide antibacterial activity. Well worth looking that up. I'm sure if anyone's interested in that.
Yeah, and that's correct what you're just saying. But it loses its stability with excessive heat. Mm-hmm. Now, with the Manuka honey industry over the last few years, in particular the year before last, they produced 17,000 tonnes in 1 year of Manuka honey out of New Zealand, but they sold 100,000 tonnes. So all the honeys were adulterated with other fillers like cane syrup, etc., and to broaden their yield. So they did a story on it. It was on Four Corners, actually, where they actually did a test of the 34 major brands out of New Zealand, and 100% of the brands were adulterated. So the West Australian government took action straight away in October 2018 and banned the import. So while you currently you can't buy Manuka, genuine Manuka in Western Australia. However, having said that, it is available at the airport in the duty-free shop there. And I had a look at it. People sent me photos of it that were in the airport. And I said, that can't be right. So, I rang the various departments and said that this is, for this honey to come into Western Australia, it would have had to have been treated to 60 degrees plus to get into the state. And they said, yeah, that's right, you know your stuff. So I said, well, that would have killed all the antimicrobial property. And they went, yep, that's right. So, but they're still selling it for $170 a jar, you know?
Oh, goodness. But the honey you guys are producing here in Western Australia, that's within the legislation, is it? You're able to do that?
Oh, most definitely, yeah, because it's grown and produced in WA, but also the species that I've got now, because about 4 or 5 years ago, I said to the chap from the university that does the seed collection, I said, because of the number of different leptospermum trees that are out there and the amount that WA has, maybe we've got something equal to or even better than Manuka. Mm-hmm. And from that, then he started a new study on it. And with the university, they identified the fact that this species that I'm now growing is up to 4 times stronger than the best Manuka that you can buy. So it's going to be pretty special, and we're going to make a lot of people healthy.
Mate, it's fantastic. I'm just looking here on the internet. In 1981, Dr. Peter Molan, MBA, professor at the University of Waikato in New Zealand, was researching the peroxide activity in honeys from around the world, and he found that he deliberately destroyed hydrogen peroxide in honey. Only one honey was still showing strong antibacterial activity, and that was the obviously the Manuka honey. But you're saying what you're growing here is 4 times as strong as that. Wow, that's super impressive. Folks, if you're interested in this, I really do recommend investigating it further as to what are some of the not magical because it's scientific, but the strong antibacterial activity. As I said, Manuka honey, produced only in Australia and New Zealand. The indigenous people from both lands have been using Manuka in their traditional medicines for centuries. So it's not new, but it's new to us, yeah?
Indeed, it's a bush medicine, and there's lots of other different bush medicines that the Indigenous people have been using, as you say, for tens of thousands of years. But the common man, if you like, is only just getting onto it now. So the benefits are incredible, and you're not using chemicals.
Right, absolutely beautiful, mate. Well, let's continue with this, and we'll tell other stories as well. But folks, you want to find out more from this, we've got Damian's contact details coming up on this podcast. So get a note of them and touch base with him at B Central, because this clearly is a growing industry with a fantastic empowering and health benefit. Well, Damian, mate, time's running out. Mate, thank you so much for your time today. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so much in what you've talked about, everything you've talked about, experience, you've talked about ethics, you've talked about health. I mean, the Richmond story alone is such a fantastic story. But your energy, your own personal energy, people can tell it's coming down the line of your care, your compassion. And, you know, as I'm hearing you made a decision in the moment to go up to York. And there's a William Hutchison Murray quote, which is, until one is committed, there's hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there's one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. And this is you, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. You committed to going to York, and things have happened. You talking to the farmers in the car, and then going to the talk at the Probus. Providence is moving. Providence is moving too. Here, all sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events, issues from a decision, that decision of you going to York, raising in one's favour all manner of unforeseen incidents. There's all these unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power and magic in it. Begin it now. That's William Hutchison Murray.
Wow, that's great. Yep.
Mate, so that's you. You making those decisions, committing, starting with the internal world with care and compassion. Your story is an ever-evolving story. Talk about everyone every day, everywhere, being empowered and moving forward. That's you. So, folks, I'm going to put Damian's contact details. You want to find out more about B Central and his mission, you want to be part of it, then clearly there's economic empowerment there for farmers, there's health empowerment and all sorts of other empowerment going on as well. Damian, thanks so much for your time, mate, and I look forward to staying in contact with you, and all the best with your mission as you continue to move forward.
Excellent. Thank you, and wish you all the best too, Leigh. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Damian. Bye now.
Bye-bye.